Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Happy Breeders' Cup Saturday for all you horse racing fans. Maybe we'll share a couple of winners before we leave here today for anybody who's looking to play the ponies. But another Saturday sweep season more than we might take a little break, maybe, and then start it up again. We'll see. We'll be running into holiday season and all that stuff, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe we don't take a break at all. We'll play it by ear. But a lot to talk about. Once again, this market has been truly incredible, price action wise, but just even some of the flow news these guys have been catching. Uh, you know, it's like any other sport out there, trading. Baseball, you get hot at the plate. You get hot as a trader, things go your way. Sometimes you go into a little bit of rut where the breaks go against you, and it's only a matter of time before it changes. That's why you got to try to stay focused and stick to the course. But the same thing applies to wise guy activity and sweeper action, and that's what I love about it most. There are periods when these guys just scorch. And when they're scorching, what happens is they catch a lot of news, okay? And a lot of us may look at it and say, inside information and shit like that, but it's not always the case. It's not always the case. And not only catch the news, you need a reaction off that news, more often than not, it's not the case, but a lot of times we'll see flow come into a name and we get an idea of what they were playing for. In other words, the name may get upgraded or something to that effect in Barons, but the reaction wasn't as positive or as big as they may have thought when they placed a bet. And that happens. And that's why there's no in this game. You have an edge when you consistently see what we've been seeing in the market right now off of activity, okay? I think that's where the difference is between where I used to be as a trader to where I am now, and where a lot of traders now are going to run into the trap where they think they may have something that works, but in reality, it's just a bull market, okay? And even their mistakes, even when they break their rules, they're still turning out okay because it's a strong bull market, And a lot of traders can fall, things go great, right? You don't, let's say, minimize your risk or have some sort of risk management when everything continues to go higher. Get away with it now, but eventually it will bite you in the ass. And it's almost the longer it goes without biting you in the ass, the worse it's going to be when it does. Okay, so it's almost like it's setting you up, and the market does a great job of doing it. So I came to the conclusion that I really had something that I can get confident in when it was doing what I needed it to do when times weren't great. You understand? When the market was choppy and I knew I still could figure out a way to survive and be profitable. Obviously I'm not going to be as profitable as when things are out of control and go higher every day as far as, stock prices. But I have the confidence that, and that's the difference. If this market right now, okay, if we had one big pull on some Fed news or Trump news or anything, and we went into some lengthy consolidation, chop, as a lot of traders like to call it, where we don't see new highs, every rally gets sold, every flush gets bought, it frustrates both sides, right? The shorts who are looking to catch a top and are almost broke doing it, and frustrate the raging bulls out there, that the people we just spoke about a second ago, that think there's some market guru or think they have some sort of huge edge in this game, but in reality, it's just a bull market. And I have the confidence, and again, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, and those of you who anything but arrogant, this game has humbled me aplenty, but I think that's the big difference. I think that's the one hurdle you want to get over as a trader, and then you can have the confidence to stick around a while. And that's when things go south or sour or, again, just chop, where play either side. Do you have something in place? You know, does the strategy, does the of still make money or at least survive? And, you know, that's what it comes down to. So my point being is, wise guy activity, right now, sweepers are hot. And the reason I can say that, again, it's not off price action. It's the results they're getting off the action. I'll give you an example. CAVM, okay, which a lot of you probably know. They came after aggressively. They opened the largest position of open interest. It's a semiconductor chip name. And was one of, probably the only one of that batch of quality activity. Okay, we were talking webinars prior, that aggressive activity where they came after more than once. Okay, that didn't really do anything. Now, yeah, you could have got, you know, if you bought it at the right spot, you could have had a short-term trade out of it because she moves. You know, she moves. I think at one time the stock was up like maybe $3 from entry. Okay, and you know, sometimes that'll be enough, but it didn't have the move, right? It didn't do what the GBT did. So when they're hot, when sweepers are hot, even the ones that a lot of times will be losers, right? The action that, and they're losers. Losers. No matter what, there will be losers. That's part of the game. Even the ones that you think are losers and maybe didn't pan out the way you might have thought, because, like I said, we were talking about even this week. I was saying to members in the room, I was like, you know, for that type of action, I get it. There was earnings in the middle. You know, you still believe, right? They still had time. December calls. Based off that action, you still had hopes in this thing, even as it was selling off. Even as it was selling off. And lo and behold, the stock, after selling off on the earnings, nothing drastic, back to the bottom of this range, turns around, goes green, super afternoon. Merger buyout news after the bell. Them and Marvell, MRVL. And up 6-7 in the aftermarket. Yeah, and it's incredible, because that's when you know that these guys are hot. Even the ones, you know, the few that didn't perform as well as you thought off that aggressive activity end up panning out. And that's not always the case. So point of the story is they are hot. We're seeing a lot of these names really blossom. The Avgo, which, again, one of the few names, you guys remember we were talking about this name, but in reality it was just like a month. But they went out and just annihilated, right? Those December calls in monster size, monster. Like they had, you know, December expiration newspaper now, right? And it's just, it couldn't get out of its way. It couldn't get out of its way. There would be a pop. They'd sell it off. It just frustrate you. It would frustrate the living daylights out of you, as the rest of the group and the rest of the market was just unconscious. But again, lo and behold, Qualcomm news, she finally gets out. Even Qualcomm, all right, which had some flow recently, but I'm not going to even try to pretend like the flow, the recent flow, gave you a heads up of what came Friday. Okay, there was some bull flow in Qualcomm, nothing to show me that they had an idea this was coming. The only flow that you could have caught this Qualcomm on, and a lot of you will remember, it was back, and they got run over initially. We were talking about this week too. It was back in, I think it was August. You guys probably know better than me. And they went out to next year and just went bananas on, what were they? I think they were June calls, May or June calls, something absurd like that. Further out next year, and they just kept buying and buying, and the stock just continued lower. Just totally ignored all that buying. And it makes you think, you know, all that buying into the blood back then, that accumulation, something big like this had to be in the works, right? So again, it makes you, but even names like this, which have been the dogs of the dogs, they're popping off actually. It's been incredible market to the point where it scares me sometimes. You know, I'm like, is it getting too good out there? And then I'll look on, you know, Twitter, and I'll look at some of the sentiment stuff, and I see people, you know, slicing their wrist and talking about politics and talking about everything else. You know, some of the sentiment stuff we look at, you know, not frothy at all. So we still could have some fun time out of this stuff, okay? And we'll talk, like I said, we'll talk about several names, not only of names that may have hatched or action. We'll go over a couple from this point on. You guys can keep an eye on. We'll go over some of your names. You can rattle off. Go into the search. Let me open up that. We'll go into the Wise Guy Activity search, and we'll take a look and see what's there. And we'll talk about sentiment, stuff like that. Also, again, I like to talk strategy with you guys. If you have a way, a style you feel comfortable with, and you're finding success, that's obviously, there's nothing better. But if you think that maybe it is the market while you're doing better, and you're worried about what may happen if the tide turns, you know, any questions regarding anything that has to do with trading and flow, and you know, I'm willing to talk about anything with you guys. All right. And on the strategy end, I'll just throw this out there. I think now, especially now, not at all times, but now, and we talked about this in the webinars in the past, it is a perfect time to, if you're trading on the call side, take the approach you're willing to lose what you're put in as far as premium into those calls. It is the perfect time. Okay? Now, you may not be able to size up as much as you would like. We discussed that. Okay? I think that's ultimately a good thing in a way. If you're playing on the option end anyhow, you don't want to get too frisky here. And not only, you can spread yourself out. You know what I mean? You can spread yourself out. Hung up on, you know, just one stock, unless the action's worth it. You know, you got a GBT, you know, you want to size up. I mean, you talk about, like, GBT was something special. We discussed that. Me, you guys know, I've solely, I mean, the majority, I've been day trading, and I took GBT for a swing, you know, because I just had to. But, you know, there's certain situations that you're going to lean a little more heavily than others. Overall, I think it's a great way to look at a lot of the names. Just put in what you're willing to lose. Like, for example, CAVM is a perfect example. All right, we were talking about this in the room on Friday. If you tried to size up and you wanted to somehow, some way, I still don't know how you would be able to do it, put a stop loss on the calls, you would have got shaken out several times. One, because the spreads on those calls, obviously CAVM is not Bank of America. So those spreads, you're going to be stopped out on as soon as you get in them, between the spread and the bid and the offer. The liquidity is just not there for that. And to be honest, the liquidity is not there for you to size up. So you're willing to, if let's say you wanted to size up and you were willing to take a $5,000 loss to stop yourself out, that would be a risk you were willing to, you were comfortable with. Put $5,000 into the calls. That's all. Put $5,000. No stress. You don't have to worry about getting shaken out. You sleep well at night. And if you're wrong, you're not getting hit over the head. And we're seeing a lot of that, guys. We're seeing like GBT, okay, the monster. Now we'll find a dandy, right? 44 on Friday. Woo-hoo, fireworks. This thing, I woke up one day. You guys know, or it was about a week ago, this candle right here. The stock was down 5 pre-market. And I discussed the story with you. I was actually looking to add to my position because I didn't have, I wanted to add if on any weakness. That was an approach I already came to that conclusion before I even bought the thing. Stock opened up and just in literally the first maybe hour ended up almost green. Now, if you were going to stop yourself out and you come in at the open and these things crash on you, you're done. You're sick. So I just, again, you should consider it. If you're finding some trouble, if you're getting chopped up, shaken out, and we haven't even really seen it market-wise. We haven't seen it. It's a lot crazier, obviously, than this. We can see these type of days continuously where they look to flush them. I hope we do. But if you're going to, especially on the less liquid names, if you're going to look to stop yourself out on calls, you're going to find a real tough time. So strongly consider that. And I think it's a great approach now. One, you're not too over your head, okay, on some of the action, especially on the market all the way up here, nevertheless, right? I mean, we're not coming out of some consolidation here. We've been in bull rage mode. So you don't want to get caught here anyway in calls, over your head. So nice and easy allows you to be nice and easy, less stress, and there's always hope. And there's always hope. And in this type of market, type of sweeper activity, and when they're as hot as they are now, even the names you lose hope in, somehow, some way, get to that green. Somehow, some way. How long it'll last, who knows? But they figure out a way during these times. All right, so let's get rolling. We'll talk about a couple names. Obviously, we already mentioned a couple. The GBT, we spoke about last week, again, why that action was that much more special than the rest, right? It wasn't the block that everybody thinks it was about. I showed you guys the sweeper activity in the name. That caught my eye, all right? It was kind of under the radar, and it signaled to me that somebody was getting behind this thing. A sharp player was getting behind it, not speculating, but making a bet on the name itself. And here's, again, another example we were talking about. Primarily, they played other stuff since then now, but primarily, March calls were the focal point. Okay? The big block was March calls. The sweeper activity, there was like 6, 7 of them that caught my eye. That was in March strikes, in the money March calls. Obviously, he didn't need till March, So there's no way of knowing. Sometimes it takes longer than others. Be on the safer side, and if they're just playing March calls, you have to make sure you give yourself and you're okay with if it takes longer than you would like. But a perfect example here where they could have played November's and it couldn't have worked out any quicker. Now, up here, done. A lot of you guys are like, I'm done with it now. I had an equity position. We totally sold that. And I'm holding on to March calls. I'm going to tuck them away. I don't like to say I don't care if they go to zero. Of course I care, but I'm willing to let them go to zero. I locked in some nice profit on the equity. So right now I got kind of like a free ride per se, and I'm going to try to give those March calls as long as I possibly can. As far as buying up here and that stuff for on a swing trade basis, I just can't do it. Okay, no matter what the action. And listen, Friday, we saw some real nice action come in Friday morning again. And what I mean by real nice action, we saw sweeper activity in something other than March. There was some December sweeper activity, and put selling. So don't get me wrong, the action there's, but this is more than I or you or anybody who played the name could have asked for. Okay, so at this point now, you're not looking to buy up here. You're not looking to put on a new position up here, add up here, ruin your cost, anything like that. Now your concentration should be on what you're willing to risk as far as the up to see more. It's that simple. If you told me you were going to sell 99% of your position and leave a runner, that's totally fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And the same thing, if you told me 70%, leave a 30% runner, if you told me you're going to leave it alone and give it more time and just keep a close eye on it, that type of thing, I'm totally okay with that. That's a call up to each individual trader out there. I just want to make it clear, because we run into this problem all the time. Next Saturday, I'm going to have a question from somebody who bought GBT at $43 because Jesus loved the action. So I just want to make that clear. Gone. Next case. And there were other names too on the spec side. Like this was top shelf type activity in a category of its own. Some of the smaller names we mentioned, the ZTO we were talking about, sort of a play on Baba, right? Baba had earnings. They are the FedEx, UPS, whatever the hell you want to label them, of Baba and JD. And again, nice move. Nice move. Can it go higher? Of course it can. Honestly, I think it probably does as long as the market remains intact. But I would not chase higher levels here. The initial activity came over here, and initially it was, what was it, Jan calls, and they came back this past week. So remember what we were talking about, if they come back in a name like this. This name, obviously, it just came public not too long ago. Rare to see action, sweeper activity nevertheless. And they came back and swept April calls after the size Jan calls. All right, so incredible action there. And similar to the GBT, if you told me you're looking for higher and you're willing to give up some, a chunk of your profits, from the entry we were talking about, to see more, that's fine. You just don't want to get in the habit of chasing higher levels. All right, so that's another one. Amazon we spoke about. Amazon continues to see action. I know a lot of guys are still interested in the name. Personally, again, the way I look at it, Amazon, for me, is done as far as off the Bazooka Joe play. It's done. Now it goes into that category with all the rest of them. Remember how we were talking about Baba, Facebook, where they've had incredible moves. There's been a ton of action in the names. You can look to get a short-term trade type thing out of it. That would be the approach. I'm talking about all flow now. Okay, you may think otherwise. You may look at this Amazon chart pattern, which I have no idea about, and you may be high confidence in a bigger move. That's your prerogative. You know what I mean? For me, I'm talking just strictly off flow. And Amazon right now, off any activity that we see, is a quick trade momentum type thing at the most. Okay? And the reason why is, guys, you know, especially if you're swing trading, if you're trading positions, the sweet spot is where Bazooka Joe hit Amazon. The sweet spot is where those sweepers came into GBT. You know, from my experience, that's where the juice is, risk-reward wise. That's where you're going to see a hell of a lot more winners. Traders run into the problem, and again, a lot of times in markets like this, where they treat all action, all the buying, they see the same. You know, meaning Amazon Bazooka Joe, when nobody wanted the stock and was in consolidation, okay, now she's all juiced up and junked up off earnings, and every jabroni under the sun wants to be in Amazon. Any call buying they see, they automatically, sometimes even worse, sometimes I guys who didn't own off Bazooka Joe, played small off Bazooka Joe, size up now. That's foolish. Totally foolish. Okay, and again, I'm talking off flow here. All right, so again, Amazon's still seeing flow. We saw a big order on Thursday. We were talking about it on Twitter a little bit too. I really couldn't tell if, you know, one of those big orders from pre-earnings rolled, but there was a pretty juicy order in Amazon on Thursday, and she did catch fire Friday. But again, you know, I would look at it as a momentum type thing and nothing else. Some of the underbelly, remember we were talking about that, the underbelly of tech, I think we still have to keep an eye there. I mean, if there's a possibility these things can get really crazy, if that's even possible, based off Qualcomm, Avgo, and now that CAVM Marvell. You know, the semis, just underbelly of tech in general. You know, we talked about like Adobe. You know, that caught the news off ridiculous sweeper activity. That's still seeing flow, goes higher every day. Incredible. ADSK, not a name to catch a lot of flow, has been seeing some big time size there. She's gone. Avgo we mentioned, which was one of the few left behind. CAVM, WDAY. Okay, that's a name still in buy zone pretty much. You do have earnings there that you may want to navigate, or like I said, you could take the approach, put into the calls what you're willing to lose, you know, and play like that, and then you don't even have to worry about it. But WDAY caught some really nice action. You know, and the funny thing is, like, and I'm no chartist, but you pull up some longer term looks on some of these things. Like we were talking about Intel when the action, the buying just started to swell, okay? And, you know, you go back a little bit, because, you know, Intel, who the hell wants to get excited call sign on Intel, right? When you got the Babas and the Facebook and the Apples of the world, and they're flying every day, you know, who, and I'm talking about the public again, who's getting excited about buying Intel calls? But, you know, you take a step back and you look, you know, even on a simple weekly, and you see these things are going for moves out of some big time consolidation. Like, look at this Intel. So the action really started to heat up as this thing was moving out of here. And they were buying calls. We thought it was like a misprint. What was it? 2020, I think they were. They started buying some leaps. 2020 calls. Okay, they basically, I think they were like $2 out of the money, and they were so cheap that it had all of us in the steam room like checking to make sure it wasn't a misprint. You know, going out to 2020 and buying calls $2 out of the money, and there's no juice, no juice. And you know, like I said, you take a step back and you look at some of these names. They're coming out of phases where they really didn't do anything special for a long period of time. You know, that was the case with the Micron too, if you guys remember. You know, Micron, you got to go back to, is this a weekly here? Yeah, right? So, you know, Micron, you had up, down, and then, like, this move has been crazy, but she's back at highs back in, what was that, 2014. My point being is, when you see the flow come into some of these names that really may not look as exciting just yet, and they're in some consolidation, you know, go back and look a little further, and you know, some of the leap buying too has just been explosive in these things, explosive. So again, the underbelly of tech, you just name it, anything in general. Honestly, you have this one had, with the help of earnings, QLEs. I think this is a cloud play, I was told. Here's a weekly on QLEs. You see what I mean? Like, they're all going for the breaks here. They all look alike. Yeah, I've never seen sweeper activity in my life in this name. Caught some sweeper action. BL is another one. This was more on the unusual buying side. They came out with earnings, had a little bit of a dip, which is fine. That's a name you could keep an eye on. What's this? I never looked at this weekly. Let me see, just out of curiosity. So they're fairly new, right? But this is a cloud. All right, basically the buying stemmed up pretty much over here. Hasn't really done anything. I mentioned WDAY, right? I'm trying to think of some names off the top of my head. Also, you have some of the gambling names. SGMS, this dip like it never exists, right back. Look at this shakeout. We couldn't believe it. It lasted maybe 2 minutes at the open. Had earnings. They brought the stock down to 42 right at the open and ended up closing. That's this SGMS with ridiculous action. All right, but again, just be careful chasing some of these things. That's all. Here's a name. If you're looking maybe short-term trade, again, just keep an eye earnings too in these things. So IGT is in that SGMS group pretty much. And if you guys remember, this was a hot play. Saw a ton of action come out of this consolidation. Slow name too. She's really slow, but had a real nice rip. Had like a $5-6 rip, which is pretty bigly in a name like this. Same thing, nice little breather, and the activity has been heating up. Well, possibly new highs before earnings, and if you don't want to hold through, leave a runner, something you can look at. Oh, you know what else caught a bet in this gambling group? LVS caught a little more action Friday again. Look at LVS. I know a lot of people like focus on Wynn for good reason, flow-wise and everything else. Wynn's a monster. But this LVS, you know, nothing really since what, June-ish? And looking to break. They announced already, if I'm not mistaken. Right, guys? LVS, let me pull you guys up here just in case. I didn't have it here. Hold on. LVS reported? I think it did. I think them and Wynn did. So this is the look on LVS, you know, testing those highs again. Here's a weekly look on it too. You know, like, look, casinos supposedly are red hot, right? I mean, since 2014, this is 14 high. This doesn't look that, insane, does it? And even on the just a regular daily chart, LVS doesn't look too insane. There's a lot of good looking stuff out there. Boyd, I think we spoke about this the last 2 weeks. Boyd had some nice casino name. Had the grind, little wash, then this was earnings. So this is a little stretched in my opinion. MLCO, that's the old MPEL, that casino name. That court action had earnings pushing higher. So that, I'm pointing it out because it's been a group that has seen some decent activity. Interestingly enough, we always see some action, but nothing jaw-dropping like we see. We see a lot of really good-looking action in Wynn. We haven't for a little bit now. But yeah, Wynn is Wynn. Looks incredible. She's been hotter than the others, though. All right, so, LVS may be one to keep an eye on here. Like I said, saw some activity, but, really hasn't done anything dramatic here. And maybe you can catch the move out of this. What the hell did they buy on Friday? Hold on. Let me get it from here. It'd be easier. Yes. They played the November 66 calls. Was a block, actually. It wasn't even a sweeper, so maybe keep an eye on some sweeper act. Dip early next week, and you see some sweepers come in. Could be prime. So that's the casinos. I see a couple of you guys talking about energy. You know what's weird, David, is that we're not seeing as much as I would like, which is a bit annoying because the majority of losers we've had throughout this rally have been energy, and now that energy is actually looking a bit decent here. There's not as much. I'll give you a couple names. PXD has probably been my favorite flow out of the bunch because of some of the leap action that it's been catching, 2019 calls. Also saw December, November buying this move higher here. So yeah, you had a big move off the lows, nice breather, earnings out of the way. They flushed it on earnings, it came back. So maybe we see some action come into this name again. There's been nice action there. I mentioned to you guys the CNQ, if you remember. That's probably the best of the bunch. Energy, most recent action, had a nice move out of here. Actually caught real nice action and headed a little bit lower, but now she got hot. And then, we saw a little bit of activity at APC on Friday. That also has seen some action. The SLB Slob, that saw some activity Friday. That's off the lows there. I don't know if they have earnings. But we saw in the group as a whole, what we did see was some really aggressive spec action in USO, cheap weeklies for next week. Right before the bell, literally probably the last, I would say, 10 minutes, they really came after them. So something to keep an eye on early next week. And IEO, which I've never seen activity in. You guys ever play this thing? So it's sort of an XOP or something to that effect. Oil and Gas Exploration and Production ETF. So with the USO sweeper activity to come in Friday, late Friday afternoon, They came in and also swept March 69 calls in this IEO. March 69 calls, they paid 91 cents. And it was about 1,900 of them, 1,900 contracts. That's like 40 times normal action in this ETF. I've never seen action in this ETF. So they bought the IEO March calls, US cheap weeklies for next week, and a March sweeper in USO as well. A couple names I mentioned to you. Nothing really that sticks out, you know. Also the CVE, you probably saw me mention this name on Twitter. They had played this name earlier this summer, got run over. They were buying December calls like they couldn't get enough. The stock continued to sell right in their face. Finally found the bottom and now starting to make its way back. They opened a new position in 2019 calls last week. So that's another CVE is a symbol there. That's it. I'll take a look. If I see anything interesting in energy, I'll post it on Twitter. You know, maybe some smaller action names. So you got quite a few different things. Biotech has been really nice. Now, even more so in small tech. I don't know what basically falls into that category per se. I don't know if GBT would fall into that category. But even some of the smaller names, we saw some action again Friday. HZNP is one I'm watching off earnings Monday or Tuesday. Really aggressive activity here. If this didn't have earnings so close, this would be well worth a shot. Probably is worth a shot anyway, but you know, you got an earnings play on your hands. But that's another small bio they came after. Then they came after some of the other ones too Friday. PRTK, you guys know that name? Paratech Pharmaceuticals. I'm not familiar with these biotechs. PRTK, SRPT. They bought that on Thursday. That had a nice move already. Puma caught a little bit of action, but they have earnings as well. PBYI. Nothing like the size action we saw back this summer, but small sweeper activity in this PBYI. ZIOP, ZIOP, small one, caught a little bit of play as well. So, and you look at XBI. You know, XBI had a nice little wash here, and you know, as a lot of other things are so damn hot. We've been seeing some really nice looking activity in some of the small cap biotech, and I think this is actually the smaller cap biotech. Even some of the bigger guys had a nice week, like Bristol Myers. The best of the action out of that bunch. Caught a couple of March missiles, if you guys remember, right into the teeth of this selling. Had a little bit of a lift. But you know, as far as the bigger names, I don't trust. Like for example, like a Gilead, that caught a little bit of buying. I have zero interest. You know, unless they catch something that's gonna throw me out of my chair a bit. Now, BMY is a different story, though. BMY has been a off wise guy activity for a trade, anyway. But you had some real nice action there. Also, Celgene, not as aggressive as the BMY, but Celgene caught some dip buying too out March. and that thing got destroyed. All right, so you got small cap biotech. And again, these things haven't gone crazy. You know, like SRPT caught action Thursday. You could have day traded it Thursday, and Friday you got even more. So, like, these things are just starting to see action again. So something to keep an eye on, especially you get these intraday fades out of these things, and you see a lot of people get nervous and shaking out, and that's the only thing we have right now, guys. Other than that, we have no pullback. You understand? We have no pullback. So when you see a fade in a name you like that has had some action, you were waiting because had a big day the day before, and that's where you got to be willing to fire. And that's where you got to get the fear of losing. There's two things you got to worry about right now. One, you don't want to get caught all in up here. It's just foolish. In other words, you don't want to get caught with a basket of calls all in, and you get caught in a overdue sell-off here. You know, but at the same time, the stuff you do play, you got to be willing to fire when you see the opportunity. And I know it sounds a little ridiculous because it's two ends of the extreme, but that's where, you know, staying a little smaller will help. So you don't have that fear. What else? We're seeing a lot of leap buying. Here's an animal, by the way. DHI, there's no sell-off in this thing. Every time they sell this thing off, it's like they add. Remarkable. You had some real sharp action. 2019 calls in this consolidation, and she has gotten loose. Seeing repeat activity up here, but I wouldn't. This is gone. I'm just giving you the example because we're seeing leap action in other things that may not seem too appetizing right now, but DHI wasn't too appetizing throughout this whole choppy sideways action either. Some of the ugly stuff, you got like Comcast, Leaps, CMC, SA, they really have built up 2019 calls in this Comcast. But again, they're 2019 calls. You know, you may not need that much time, but anything, you know, in between that, especially a couple weeks, months, is really noise, guys. You know what I mean? It's really just noise. This thing could head south and go to 33, 32 from here. And in reality, what's it mean? You know, they're going to come in and probably add more to those calls if they have that opportunity. So the big guys right now feel this is a nice spot to really start getting aggressive time frame. That's what the action tells us. That's basically what you're going to take out of that action. Again, may not need that long. We see it a lot, you know. We see DHI, SGMS. There's a lot of leap action that really has performed incredibly over the short-term horizon, but some may take longer than others. Just understand that. Yeah, so this Comcast, out of all the media names that have been lit up to the downside, this is probably, they were buying this too. I'm just not as crazy. Mostly blocks. Disca. You might have seen the Nigerians were liking that action. There's been size action, but just not my type of action, that's all. You know, so again, several sectors, and I know there are, you know, a lot of you who just like to stick with the same names over and over. But you're missing out, I think, of the best part of this market right now. You know, the underbelly. The underbelly, and it's, you know, not just in tech, and it moves from sector to sector to sector. The banks look incredible, by the way. Citi, flow-wise, the best of the bunch of recent, and that's been changing, right? Initially with Citi, if you guys remember, in the spring into early summer, Citi was the best one action-wise. Then it shifted. It went from like to Bank of America, J.P. Morgan, which all of them have done well. All of them. JPM. And now Citi has been getting the most attention. And the reason could be, again, I'm just guessing. I don't know these guys personally. But the reason could be there was a downgrade in this one that set it back. This one was outperforming the rest. This one was the best one to own. And then there was a downgrade, which set it back a bit. And now maybe they feel there's, you know, more upside from here in this thing as compared to some of the others. Maybe there's some catching up to do, in other words. You know, but again, all the flow across the board. Morgan Stanley, they were buying that one at one point. That was, you know, in comparison to the type of action, Morgan Stanley saw some real nice action. Goldman Sachs, the best looking order in Goldman Sachs, and you know, Goldman's not a name, the type of action Bank of America and Citi do. But I'll show you guys. There's been a lot of like spec flow in Goldman. And I would like to see another good-looking buyer, but it doesn't always work out that way. Here is, there's a glitch on the board. So these are Jan 2018, by the way. But this was the top bet in Goldman recent. So you're going back here, September 12th, okay, and at 225. Now again, all action cheaper, you know, but and you can see no other action, right? Hit the board. So that just tells you that there's been a lot of spec action. We haven't seen any Citigroup type sweepers that I like or anything like that. It's been more cheap weeklies and stuff like that. Because I know a lot of you guys like to trade Goldman, especially you option players. That's your favorite bank, but doesn't really catch the action the others do. Maybe that'll change. Maybe that'll change. So we hit on the banks, we hit on energy, we hit on tech and the underbelly of tech. I know some of you were out there probably salivating for FANG. We spoke a little bit about Amazon. Netflix is one I get asked constantly about last week. No action there that I want to see. You know what I mean? I would like to see a good-looking sweeper here. And again, Netflix, it's old news, right? This is not, you know, this is not Netflix coming off a poll. This is Netflix in an uptrend, and buying has been there throughout. But you have a little bit of a breather here in where, you know, a good-looking sweeper can maybe give you a heads up that this thing is ready now. Okay? It looks ready now already. Apparently, everybody thinks so, too. But for me, unless I see a real sweeper, you know, I would be going off my own instincts, and I learned not to do that a long time ago. All right, so maybe the ideal scenario, Netflix, you know, grinds here, approaches this breakout to new highs type thing, shakes them, and then you get that sweeper show up. You know, Apple, a couple of us were talking about it. I mean, picture perfect. It was picture perfect, all kidding aside. And why was it picture perfect? I wish I could get to, oh, I could, hold on. Yeah, so let me blow this up. I just want to show you guys, because not only the bears, I like when they set up the bulls too, because it's fun. How do I blow this chart up? Damn it! Hold on. Where is it? Down here somewhere, isn't it? Oh, here it is. Got it. Okay. So here's the apple. All right. And if you remember, you had everybody hated Apple, right? You had this wash here. And you can see sentiment got pretty negged out down here. You can see, right? So that's where you want to see some action stem up, start to heat up. We did. Nice move. Okay, really nice move. But again, think like we would normally think, like the jabroni retail trader likes to think. They don't want to buy it here, and they're not going to buy it here. They're going to buy it up here looking for the break, right? So what I love to see happen, and we were talking about this at the time, and you can see sentiment got a little overextended there. You want to see that. And when you just that little shake and bake, it washes out so much of that bullish extreme, you know, and it didn't even go any lower, it just sat there and then exploded. So maybe something similar, not saying it will, I have no idea, you know, this, if I could know if that was going to happen, I wouldn't be talking to you guys, I'd be on my own island somewhere. But if we could get something similar to that, you know, maybe Netflix inches up early next week, and then they get the whoop, and then we see sweeper activity come into that, that would be ideal. All right, so that's the FANG names. Amazon, again, in my eyes, gone. Probably going higher, but gone. You know, Baba's got to breathe. Tesla, too noisy right now. I would like it to settle down. Yeah, that had earnings. I don't think there might have been some small buying in Tesla. Honestly, I haven't really been paying attention post earnings here. Let's see. So here's the buying pre-earnings. This was, remember that I liked pre-earnings. Obviously, he got it wrong. Oop. This here. Nice sweep too. But again, earnings. These guys got paid. Oh my God, they got paid. But who knows what they were doing, you know? Who knows what they were doing? But yeah, so here's yesterday. So here you had a block in Tesla there. Oh, those were weekly, so those expired. So forget it. So yeah, I want to see Tesla quiet down, bore some people where they take their eyes off it, and the action dry up. You know what I mean? And then we see the action start to heat up again. That's what I like. So, same to Baba, gone. JD, we're seeing some flow, but this is earnings flow now in JD. So we're seeing some flow there. You know, speaking of which, ZTO, and that's what I was saying, if you're in it, you may at the least want to leave a runner. I don't know if you're in equity or the Jans or whatever the case. You got the Singles Day coming up too, which could be a catalyst for this thing. But I don't know much about these guys. All right, so that's pretty much what I'm seeing across the different sectors. A lot of nice action, again, from casino names to small cap biotech to the underbelly of tech. And that's where, if you guys remember, and granted, I know Amazon's been an animal outside of Amazon, and it was a different animal, right? Amazon wasn't Baba, if you remember. Baba's been in this huge uptrend. So I feel like I don't have much of an edge. You know, Amazon was in nobody wants it category when it caught Bazooka. So it's a different, totally different play. So rather than the FANG names that everybody's staring at, if you guys remember, we were talking about the last couple of weeks how the underbelly, I think, is where it's at. And I think going into next week, it could get crazy. I don't see how it doesn't get crazy with the news Friday and the CAVM news after the market. I don't see how. I mean, they're going to want to have exposure in all these things. No? They're going to need exposure in all these things. Now, granted, they may have exposure already in some of them, you got the Adobes that have exploded off action already. You're talking some big winners here too, guys. Big winners. But again, you need the time to allow yourself to feel comfortable to catch these moves. You need the time. To be able to hold the Adobe off this sweeper here through these profits, the only way is leaving a runner, like we talk about all the time, or giving yourself enough time to survive this little dip, which they hit up aggressively anyway. But you're talking about monster winners, and this Adobe's been strong, but hasn't exploded per se until now. Right? The ADSK, same thing. She just continues to grind higher. There's so many of them. So yeah, keep an eye on the underbelly of tech, the underbelly in general. All right, let me get to some of the stuff. I see you guys already throwing some stuff out there. I guess I didn't bring up. Tsunami saying, join the webinar late. Did you discuss CAVM? Yeah, I brought it up. And I just brought up the example of how hot sweepers are right now in some of these swing plays. That even the most aggressive activity out there that appears they may have got wrong, which hasn't been often, let's be honest. And again, I'm talking about the solid activity out there. It looked like they were wrong here, even though this thing still looked good, right, Tsunami? You remember, we were talking about this Friday, and we said, don't lose hope, don't forget about it. If you're in it, sit tight. You have to December. That weakness wasn't anything new. It's still in this little nothing phase here. Still looks good. And keep in the back of your mind that the way they bought this thing was special. That's the most important thing. The way they came after it was special. Now, you see, CAVM doesn't catch activity, okay? When it did, back in April and November, well, November was, that's 2016. But when it did earlier this year, $50,000 sweep, peanuts. And that's noteworthy in itself for that name. And then on October 5th, they come in, sweep multiple exchanges, open up the largest position of open interest in December 70s. Pretty noteworthy bet, right? How much more noteworthy was it when they come back this next day, the very next day, and pay up for those December 70 calls again? They came in, the stock was 68. The stock was hitting 70, 69.70 to be exact. So $1.70 higher the stock was. And that degenerate said, well, I know that Marvel news is probably coming, so I better get this thing before it runs away from me. That's basically what he said. So when you see action like that, the tough part was earnings. That's the thing. You had to navigate through that earnings. That was the toughest part of it. Even though they were December calls, you had earnings in the middle, and listen, it's frustrating, but this earnings season, more than any, has cost a lot of people a lot of money on the upside. A lot of people a lot of money. But my point is, when you see this action, okay, and again, relative to its name, this is the largest, this bet, this one right here was the largest position of open interest open. He came in the next day and doubled it. So that speaks to me loudly. You know what I mean? And that's, again, the GBT, everybody talks about this here. Everybody talks about this block here, where honestly, this block was just, the cherry on top for me. I didn't even, this block, I forgot even that they played this block. That block wasn't even on my mind. I was like, oh shit, that's right. There was another $1 million block as well. Like, that wasn't even on my mind. What caught my eye in that thing, we spoke about in the last webinar. And again, guys, the reason I do this, especially those of you who are members already, an understanding of why the action is different from everything else we look at. And it's not for you, you're not going to be able to read the flow the way I do and I have been over the years. I got years of experience and I know what to look for. But especially if you're a member, I'm there to point it out to you. And you just need to understand why I feel that way about the flow. And that's how you learn eventually to figure it out all on your end. Oh, come on. I hate this. Hold on. All right, let me see. Can I blow this up for you guys so you can see? Well, those of you who were here last week and the week before probably remember we went over this. But for those of you who weren't, oh my God, are you kidding me? You see private Twitter? That's it. I can't go back. Here we go again. Private Twitter, it gets in smooth. Just Twitter in general, I guess. Oh, you know what I can go to? Hold on, bear with me. It's really become a pain in the ass. Somebody told me every new update they do, it changes that. Did I put it here? Oh, here it is. There it is. All right. So here's the total action. Actually, not all of it, but a chunk of it, so you could get the idea. Okay. There's the block up top, right? That's the big guy that a lot of people were impressed by. But like I said, that wasn't even on my radar. This is what I saw, and this is what got me excited. This sweeper here. This was a block. This is a sweep. Multiple exchanges. All right, so he swept that. 456, paid 1090. Big time wood, $500,000. Another sweep. These are all going off. Look, 1447. Here's another sweep here. Same thing. March, deep in the money, 25 calls, 1089. Another 300 grand. Then another one right here, 197, 227 grand. And then there were smaller ones after that, same thing. So all this told me that somebody who knows a lot more than you and I was making a serious bet on the name. This is not spec action. You know what I mean? It's not some block that he negotiated. He's sweeping multiple exchanges here to get a fill on deep in the money calls. And that's why, again, with those of you who are members, that type of action, okay, Steam Room or whatever, private Twitter or whatever the case may be, this is the type of action you have to find a way to own. That you have to. You have to. And unless you're already, like I said, unless you're already a seasoned trader consistently making profits where you can pass on these things or pick and choose, if you're a believer in sweeper activity like I am, these are things that you have to be a part of. This is the best of the best. They don't come around often, but when they come around, they're high confidence plays. But again, you can see that emotion. It's almost, again, like a degenerate. He would go about buying it if we felt as confident at the time. He's not scared. He's not worried about the wood he's laying going to zero. Right? But he's being aggressive in buying it. The CAVM guy, you could see the true degenerate emotion come out. He thought it was getting away from him already because the stock was up $2 the next day. He didn't have enough. He was probably saying, you know what? I'm going to sweep these. I'm going to make sure I got 700 grand worth just in case. But then I'll wait. Maybe I'll get lucky. I'll get a dip. The stock actually ran the $2 and he said, oh shit, forget the dip. I'm not playing games here. Now, obviously, I'm making up what he might be saying, but that's my interpretation of it. But that's what makes the action special. All right, so what do we know here? Someone knew for sure they were coming after earnings. Maybe, or somebody, somebody may, again, Tsunami, my feeling is some of them may know, okay, but some of them may have an idea. And you got to understand, this game is not about being certain. There's no way to know for sure. Like I said, sometimes sweepers will catch the news and the reaction wasn't the reaction they were looking for, and they lose money. So even though they were right, they didn't make money. So there's no way to be certain all the time. But it's about, and that's the way you should look at all these things when you're playing. If you're looking at it any differently, you're nuts, and you're never going to find the success you're looking for. This game is all about odds and probability. That's it. Just like any other gambling out there. You know what I mean? If he has an idea of something going down, and he has a better idea in CAVM than he would in any other name, it's worth the bet to him. Win or lose, it's worth the bet. And that's the way I'm trying to show you guys. GBT, no matter win or lose, even if it was a loser, you want to lose money with GBT action. Right? If somebody was to tell you there's an 80% chance you're gonna make money on this name, are you gonna look at it and say, well, there's 20% chance I'm not, so I'm gonna pass? No. You would play that every freaking time, day in, day out, till you turn purple in the face. And that's the way you got to look at all this stuff. The top action, the top shelf action, like a GBT, there's a much higher probability you're going to find success. The other action that we all like to play, there's not as high as a probability of finding success, but there's higher than if you were to play off anything else, in my opinion. So you got to be ready for losers. You got to anticipate losers, but at the same time, you can't focus on it. You want to be involved in these things when the odds are in your favor. The wise guys, and I get the term wise guys from the gambling world, you think when they're betting professionally, when they're betting sports professionally, they know for sure if the Giants are going to win on Sunday? You think they know for sure that Ohio State is going to cover the points? No. They know in the long run, those games are going to hit at a 65% clip. That's the way they look at it. And that's the way you guys should look at it. Not only this, in anything in regards to this game, You have to look at it through those lenses. You have to. The person view on airlines. I'm just Nipur. I'm not a big airline fan as far as flow is concerned, because some of the bigger airlines catch a lot of flow, and there's no edge there. In other words, what I would need to see out of like American Airlines or Delta to get me really excited would be super aggressive activity. I'm talking about super. I would need them come in, sweep the living daylights out of Delta one day, right? Do nothing. 2 days later, they come in aggressively sweeping again. They come in, sweep again. All the other flow, all the other call buying in the airlines, the edge we talk about, the probability, I don't feel it's enough. They catch flow, they're active. So there's nothing's going to stand out. Like, for example, Delta, there were a couple guys in the room who played Delta, I think it was like last month, but I'll give you an idea where it was before earnings. Here's some of the flow in Delta. But here it is. This is where a couple of guys in the room, is this it? October? My time, as far as, I have no track of time anymore. I think this was it. It might have been it. A couple of guys got interested in this Delta. I think it was early October. There was a big sweep there, a couple of big blocks. You can see there was some action back in September too. But that's the one I remember. Southwest catches activity from time to time. Let me see. Delta. Oh, let me erase this shit. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, so you could see, like, they were buying it a little more so. You could see September into October, right? August. That's going back too far. So you can see the action really started to pick up here. 9, 12, 10, 3. So that's where a couple people got interested. And, even then, that was a nice setup. I give them credit. That was a decent setup. But because it was Delta, I kind of brushed it off. I'll be honest with you. But the reason why I like that is because you see, nice wash, right? You don't want to chase up here, late in flow. You want to wash, and then the action started to get hot here, right? September, so right around here. That's when the action started to heat up, sweeper-wise, with decent size. And then they came back in early October. I don't know what the hell this spike was. So, yeah, so you got a little bit of a wash here, but I don't see that type of activity that we saw back then. Hold on, let me take this off. I'm all into this drawing Madden style here. 10-3. Yeah, so you only have this bet here, and this expired. Gone. Nothing. Nothing in Delta. I should have said that from the get-go. Huh? Neil's asking, how does Pfizer look open interest-wise? I don't know. All I know is Pfizer caught some real nice action. Another name, I'm just being honest with you guys, I ignored. A couple guys in the room had it nice, but I ignored. Pfizer caught some real nice action, had a nice move. There was some big action too. Let's see. 10:30. Oh, they had earnings, right? This was earnings flow. I remember that. Yeah, so you can see Pfizer had a pickup in activity. Here was the day, 9/12. That was the day, I think. You see it here? A lot of orders in that day. and some on 9.7 too. So, you know, a name like this sees action. I don't put it in that category per se, but you could see, look at the size of these sweeps. A million, 600. So that's when she was getting hot here. 912. Yeah, right here when she was just starting to get hot. So you had earnings. This was earnings? Neil, this was earnings, right? The pullback here? I don't know. I'm not, you know, the action's nice, but it's just not my cup of tea. You know, if anything, for me to bless Pfizer would be off this day for a trade. Yeah, this is all repeat activity. This was earnings flow. I remember it going into earnings. Yeah, BMY is a different story. BMY, I like a little bit better because you had this wash, and then into the teeth of the selling caught two really good-looking March orders. These here. These two twins that came in. At 61.40, the stock was trading. So here, 12.19 around lunchtime, 600 grand, boom, boom, sweeper, and another 770, like a little 12 minutes later. This was the order I liked too. This one right here, the 57.5s in the money, sweep. You know, prior to that, BMY has had nice flow. So you got the selling there. You got some nice time, and you got two good-looking orders. You love twins. That's funny. But yeah, so they hit it, you know, right into the teeth here, right into the teeth of the selling. Again, had a nice bounce from there. It may hang around here, and that's not a bad thing. If this thing foxes around here, maybe it drifts lower, and Neil, they come and hit it again the way they did, those twins that you love, if they come in, maybe this time triplets, quadruplets, you know, that sets up a real nice play. And maybe this time they come in as far as time frame is concerned too, right? Maybe they hit up Jan, something like that go around. So it was worth a play on March here off that. And now at this point, I would wait. You know what I mean? If you're in it, you're in it. If you're looking to get in it, I would wait to see if they show up again and hope the stock does nothing here. I wouldn't chase it. You know, just for a quick trade or something like that. You're looking to play off the momentum. But even if the sweeper activity heats up, I would not chase it. This is where, if you're looking at BMY off this pull, this is where you want it to be, and the time is a good thing. The time should never scare you. You know, Sharpies, they don't come in and sweep weeklies. That's speculative type flow. Speculation. When Sharpies want to make a real bet in an especially into weakness, this is the order they do it with. You know, those GBT sweepers, that's the order they do it with. So yeah, that's the difference. Pfizer's kind of, you know, been there, done that, next case type thing. Let it set up again if you're interested. If that makes sense. Let's see, we got some interesting names. Let me get to them here. What do I think about this LYB November 107 close? Brent, LYB, they already scored on that thing. I know the order you're talking about, too. the news is out there. So I'm not really too interested now. You know? They hit that LYB before they caught this, I think, didn't they? Now this LYB, what is this? This is chemicals? Let me see something. Chemicals, right? Those look good though. $11.3, these expired. Yeah, I think this was the order, wasn't it? Yeah, I think so. So these expired. You know what, Brent? I got to look to make sure if it rolls. It may have replaced this. So that's why I'm a little gun-shy. You understand? So in other words, these expired Friday. Who caught the news at $100? So now he may have taken some money out of this and put it into these now. Similar to what I think may have happened with Amazon with that big buyer on Thursday. That might have been the Bazooka Joe group over there moving some stuff around. So I'll double check and see if it rolls too. But you know what? We may not even see that because they expired. But I'll check. What are the names we got here? Hang on. Airlines we spoke about. Yes, I did notice CME action. There's been some CME action. I think there was the small sweeper variety. Let's see if it hit the board. Yeah, there it is. You had some small sweeper there. November 142 calls. They have numbers coming, right? Yeah, LYB and merger talks. Yeah, it was some acquisition news they caught. So yeah, the CME caught a little bit of action here last week. They also played ICE earnings. They caught a pop off of. Oh, that came back in Friday, it looks like. But CME had some small speculative sweeper action there. Looks like it may be an earnings play. I don't know if they came out with earnings, though. Look at this CME. Wow. Yeah, the volumes across all these things. The people talk about the volume in the stock market all day long. Meanwhile, you got option volume and everything else scorching. What's that CBOE doing? That caught flow too. Jesus. Wow. Hot, hot, hot. See, these things, these are the names I don't know what to do with. You know what I mean? And we see action in them all the time. The PayPals of the world. The PayPal is mind-boggling. It just doesn't go down. And they don't let it go down. Every time this thing shows that it might dip, they hit it with something extremely bullish. Stock dips intraday, you get, a 900,000 sweeper missile. Look at the sizes on these things. And then it had one pullback this year. Was it? No, it was this year. 925. I think it was this year. One day where they were selling, and they came in selling puts 2 in the bid. So basically they're calling bottom on this little pullback. I remember saying, all right, we're finally maybe going to get a bit of a breather in this PayPal because, you see a lot of nice action. So maybe you get an opportunity to play this thing. You have a little intraday dip like this, and they come in and they're selling puts like madmen. Then you had earnings. I'm like, all right, this thing can't go higher, right? You talk about price to perfection. can this thing actually be up on earnings? I said, no way. Yep, it was up on earnings. Brent saying he's in December 72.5. What an animal, Brent, huh? This thing's just an animal. Animal. By the way, I just remembered this because it puts on OCLR off earnings. They came in selling puts big time. Let me see here. They went out to 2019 and sold the $5 puts in OCLR. They took in 50,000 of them. So a name to keep an eye on. If you guys like to play the small ones, this thing's been beaten up off earnings here. Well, this thing was hot as hell earlier in the year. Isn't it this? I think it was. But anyway, they sold puts way out 2019, which is even better. And they're basically calling bottom here. So I don't know how you play it on the call side. That's the thing we were talking about on Friday. How do you look to take advantage of this on the call side? The only way realistically is if you went in the money with some time. Otherwise, it's more of probably an equity play in where, you know, limited downside and maybe longer term, you got some nice upside there, you know? But it's a cheap name. You got to, and Jim is saying it's a takeover target, which makes that action even more interesting, Jim. That makes that name even more interesting off that put selling. So again, the problem is, how do you play it besides equity or going out with a decent amount of time? But something to keep an eye on, because that type of action, that guy's calling bottom, basically. There's no other way to interpret that action. You know, in other words, yeah, it could test lows, it could hover around here, but that guy is not doing that unless he's that there's going to be huge support at these levels here. So that was some nice action lately. Let's see, what other names we got here? AMD, I'm still a believer longer term in AMD. We were talking about this last week. What you want to see this thing hang here. You know, you really don't want to see much of a rally. You want to see it hang around here. And then you want to see the sweeper activity really start to heat up. There was some spec action on Thursday, cheap sweepers off some blockchain news. I don't know exactly, but there was some sort of chatter news out there that got calls heated up. But ideally what you would like to see is this thing hover around, people get frustrated, and then have them really come after calls. You know, a lot of the stuff, and they've been buying AMD for quite a bit, but a lot of the bigger positions, if you remember, guys, they rolled out to next year, Feb, March. So they still got a lot of wood invested that they've rolled out in time. So I don't think AMD is dead. I could be wrong, but I don't think AMD is dead. And, you know, look, like I said, you pull up a weekly, look. Looks totally normal to me. You know, just stuck in this consolidation. And when she gets out, it's probably going to be big. I mean, look at this move here. And there was flow this whole entire move. They started with $2 leaps. $2 leaps. And they've been playing, this thing has been active ever since. So I like this bottom of the range here, play dead. frustrate some bottom fishers and see the action heat up. And you want to see it heat up. You really want to see it heat up. You don't want to see, an hour of sweepers off some chatter or news out there buying cheapies. You want to see some good-looking action. And it'll stand out like a sore thumb when they do in this name. When they do, you can't miss it. You can't miss it. It's kind of like Bank of America. When they really want to come after it, it's nonstop. And there's no news. There's nothing. Usually she looks its worst. HZNP, I just saw that. Where'd it go? Somebody was asking about it. HZNP would be, I picked up those HZNP December 14 goals. Yeah, HZNP would be right up there with the best of them action-wise, especially if earnings were out of the way. So, like I said, probably worth a shot anyway with earnings. A lot of people roll the dice anyway. I'm not worth a small shot. And hopefully we get kind of a useless reaction. You know what I mean? Nothing crazy. I know those of you who are in it, but I'm talking about if you're looking for an entry, even if it's weak, even like CAVM, where you got some weakness there, just nothing that knocks it out of the game. And then you can look at this thing, especially if they come after it into that. But not even just as long as earnings are out of the way. See, here's the thing with earnings. And again, options, they have their usefulness when it comes to that. You worry about getting buzzsawed. That's what you worry about. You worry about, AAOI. Now, that doesn't happen with names that catch solid flow often. Once in a blue moon, But that's what you worry about, especially if you're playing equity or anything like that. It gets in the way. But yeah, HZMP is a must-watch. Yeah, Qualcomm Jim is done for me. Caught ridiculous action again Friday. Like I said, I can make it up and lie to you and say that the Qualcomm flow recent was telling me this was going on, but I'd be lying to you. The only thing that stood out to me in Qualcomm, this was the action Friday, by the way. The only thing that stood out to me in Qualcomm, flow-wise, was back here. Where was it? Here. This was it. Well, this is where it started, and they bought more on the way down. June's 70s. See all that? And you see the difference, right? Now, did this dude know this was in the works? Who knows? Who knows? But these June 70s, and I forgot, somebody told me what they have in open interest. We looked at it Friday. That's the line they really, really came after. And here's an example, by the way, of where the time you needed, right? I showed you a couple where you didn't need the time, but here's an example of where you needed the time. Time, you could have used that to your advantage, because what happened was Qualcomm was a shit show, excuse my French, when they were buying it. Nobody wanted Qualcomm. And it continued to sell right in their face. Right in their face. Look at the month of August here. Look at this. You know what I mean? So there's a perfect example. But in reality, what does this mean, right? What did this mean here? What did this weakness here mean besides shaking out some bull people who tailed some of that action when they were playing for this? June 70th, 45,000 plus an open interest. Mr. Taylor just posted 45,000. That's what they scooped up. $45,000 of those Junes. You know, I'm glad somebody brought up the Qualcomm because now you see the example. Perfect example, right? Perfect. Perfect example. You know, would have frustrated you, and all this is that the chart doesn't even do it justice. Because if you were sitting in Qualcomm, this was torture. Torture. While the market was going up every day. Oh my God. While the market is going up every single day, you are Qualcomm position, right? Like, let's say you have 3 different positions. Qualcomm was one of them. And it was a longer term position, but you got to look at that thing every day as the rest of everything you own. You're knocking the ball out of the park. You know, you're so tempted to just get the hell out of it. But if you made a play, if you made a play off that aggressive June buyer, you got to find a way to survive this, man. You have to. This is all noise. That's all it is. And that's why a lot of times I have a buddy of mine who I also a colleague I work closely with throughout my career, and he has to build positions because he manages money too, etc. So some of the short-term stuff that we love, he can't even really play unless he makes a score. You know what I mean? He's got to be careful of the turnover. So this is his bread and butter. He likes stuff like this because what he can do is he can buy some, relax, flush, add, relax. Looks like it bottomed out, add. You know what I mean? So in other words, he's not putting in full position here. He's looking to add. And these plays are the cream of the crop for that. As a matter of fact, the problem is a lot of times these things don't give you the opportunity to add like this. That's the main problem. But if you're looking to build position over time and you have time on your side like that, yeah, this is picture perfect in reality if you're looking to play that way. Sandeep saying EDU, that caught some size action recently. That was further out too, right? Let me see. But some good looking action there. Hold on. Some size, this EDU. This is a China play too, right? Where is it? Yeah, here it is. So here's the story with EDU. These blocks, you see these big blocks? That's what I mean. You see how it could catch action? They were tied. The majority of this stuff, even cheaper, I don't remember these back here, but the majority of these things, 48. Oh, that's January. I'm saying, what the hell? This is July. So the majority of this stuff is tied, and then on this day, papers were clean and big time size. So again, a name that could catch size, so it's a little bit different, but if you like the name, well worth a look. You know, one, you got a sell-off. That's, you know, I like that, right? So you're not buying up here. You're buying off a flush. And you got some nice time behind it, April. So just in case, you know, comes in a little bit more, it's not the end of the world. This is a nice spot. Sandeep, this is a nice spot. Yeah, that was some nice action the other day. I remember that. EDU. This is Chinese? Isn't this a China play? Or no? Oh yeah, New Oriental Education. I know the selling has been off, I think, this news, if I'm not mistaken. TAL. I think that's the selling in EDU, that little sell-off. There was news around this TAL. I guess that's in the same group. Education. I don't know. Jim is saying some other names in the group catch education. I'm not sure. I don't know too many. Like I said, the EDU, the only reason I know it, off the size it caught in the past, there was some big blocks. Like I said, some of them were tied to stock. Similar, you know this one? MELI. You guys know this name? Mercado Libre, whatever the hell it is, Brazilian Mercado Libre. This name catches a lot of size blocks tied. As a matter of fact, it just why does this thing take so long to load? Just this last week, it caught some size action tied to stock. I'll show you. Yeah, look at that. But anytime you see 16 million and you see a block like that, yeah, look at this, 21 million, 3 million. Look at the blocks in this name. Latin American eBay, that's right. So this is what I say to that flow. Useless. Yeah, I don't know any other education names. Shop. What do we see in Shop? Shop. There was a decent buyer. I haven't seen anything since. But that was before earnings, right? I think she had earnings. Shop. Yeah, here it is. This was the last decent action we saw in Shop. That was on October. Oh no. Here. Oh, you had one. Oh yeah, here. Back-to-back days. October 10th, October 11th. $92 and $93 Shop was at the time. November's. Well, we have since not even smaller stuff. Shop's been quiet. So that was, oh, they nailed the lows there. Wow. Yeah, nothing since. I see why you're asking, though. You had a little bit of a pull, something to keep an eye on, see if they come in again there, Sean, you know? But, you know, the reason why they were Novembers, we don't even know if they're still open. They might have yanked them. I mean, this is a pretty nice move here. Hit 110. I didn't even realize that. So you would need to see them again. I wouldn't rely off that action is my point. You know, but again, oh, this is the short from what's his name? That outfit that gets run over all the time now. Oh, Citron, yeah. What pikers, huh? Serves them right. But yeah, they'll probably get run over again, Sean. I would keep an eye on action. I don't know if you're going to see that type of size again, but I would keep an eye on action there without a doubt. Again, you guys know I like, what the hell did I do? Oh, you know, I like this, right? You get a pull in bottom, right? You're trying to form a bottom, and then boom, boom, they hit it up. You know, at the least, you should see some momentum. At the least. I like those type of plays. And not even if they're this drop, if the selling stopped right here and trying to find a bottom and then you see sweeper action come in to set a leg up. Now this is a smaller one, but if this thing can hang out here and you get some sweeper activity, could be indication of some juice coming again, you know? So if you like the name, definitely worth keeping an eye on action here, without a doubt. Cores, you got action there, but you got earnings. Cores has earnings coming. I saw that action, when was it, Friday, I think? And Cores actually had some real nice action prior to that. That was a solid trade. I know because a couple guys actually traded it. I think it was off this. Yeah, it was off this. September 15th. Where was that? Yes, it was out of this little flaggy thing. So you had the big pop. That was earnings, right? Let me see. This is what I love, TradingView. Look at TradingView. See that E? You click on E, earnings. It gives you the surprise. How awesome is that? That's so awesome. So yeah, this was on earnings, and then you had consolidation, right? You don't want to chase that. If you see flow, you want to wait for a breather and then some flow to come in, and then they did come in. They came in right over here, and that was a nice little trade. So now you have earnings. I would wait to after earnings. Yeah, this is earnings action in my opinion. Brent is asking about NXPI. I tell you, Brent, there's not too much action where they come in constantly and I get caught off guard. Sometimes in obscure names, it'll happen from time to time because I'm looking for that type of action. This NXPI, I didn't know what the hell was going on at the time. So what happened was this NXPI has been seeing flow all the way back before the acquisition news, like going back months. And I would constantly see activity come in. And I thought it was just maybe, you know, arbitrage players. Because I thought they were getting bought. I thought it was done. I didn't know of any higher bid or whatever the case. So that's been the action throughout. The recent action here of this move, we've seen them roll everything out. So basically, in simple English, all that buying that they did do, they pushed it out further in time. Yeah, Jim, I didn't know that. I thought it was, again, I didn't think it was real action, and supposedly it was. You know, you had some big time action there. Not even big time action, it was repetitive action. All right, NXPI sweepers again, you know, probably an arbitrage play. I didn't think they'd be upside like this. That's what I'm trying to say. So, it caught me off guard. But what we have been seeing recently, a lot of that buying has piled up to big size. They have pushed everything out, I think, to April. So that Qualcomm 8, wow, that got down to there? Shoosh, 111. But making a long story short, they pushed everything out. They've been rolling stuff. So I wouldn't, you know, well, I know what you're probably getting at. You're probably asking if they come in here, is it worth a look? And honestly, I really don't know. I really don't know. You know, because it's not new buying. They've been buying this, and I kind of missed the boat there. Chris is asking, what was the Amazon play this week from Bazooka? Can I find it off private Twitter? I'll show you. It was Thursday. That guy. That was Thursday. There's other action. There was other action around it. There was some Jans, but this was the guy. November 2nd. That was Thursday, right? I think so. But anyway, 700. Yeah, look at the wood. So I couldn't tell if they were closing any of the other stuff. You know what I mean? That's the problem with repeat action at higher levels. That's the problem. And you know, this whatchamacallit, they've been hitting this thing post earnings constantly, but this was the order, you know, smaller stuff you could see here. Those were weeklies. Where's another one? Oh, here. That's for next week, the 1150s. That was on November 1st, so the day before that. That'll expired. Yeah, that was smaller stuff. So yeah, in other words, I didn't see Bazooka Joe close any of those positions. Or I couldn't tell if he maybe closed a piece of it or something like that. So when you get, you know, when you have something like this with a move like this, it gets tricky now, the action here. Because, you know, is the short money, right? Is that Bazooka Joe crowd going to pay up here now? More than likely they'll roll, if anything. You know, and when they roll, a lot of times they pay themselves. They put some money, they take some profit. You know, that's their form of profit taking. These guys very rarely will sell full positions and get out. It happens, but rare. You know, when they commit to a name, when they have high confidence in a name, they'll ride it. They'll ride that trend, and they'll continue to roll up and out, roll up and out. So it appears like there's new action coming in, but in reality, it's a form of profit taking they use, and it's incredible. It's just so hard to mimic. You know, we can't do it. We can't do it. Yeah, these guys are dealing with an arsenal. Forget it. Check out Stamp. What the heck do they do? Yeah, Stamp. Yeah. I don't think, Jim, I knew you at the time. Maybe I did and just wasn't paying attention to you. No, I'm just kidding. But this Stamp, initial activity in this Stamp caught, you got to see the bet it caught. Watch this. And the trolls and tweets on Twitter, comical. We should have known this thing was going to explode. Let me get to it if I can get to it. Oh, yeah, see, I could go back here. Apparently, it's on private Twitter now that they don't let me go back. Here it is. So this is back in August. Look at the price of the stock, Jim. This was initial activity. They opened the largest position of open interest. You can see? November, open top OI position. Look at the price. The alerts were different then. $87, Jim. And I remember it, not only because there was actually quite a few people who played it then, because it was significant. You know, look at the size of the bet. This was a no-name. Caught a $500,000 bet back then. Yeah, August 2016. And the trolls on Twitter, I remember, the wise-ass cracks, oh, what are we in, 1999? Stamps.com? You know, like abusing it. And meanwhile, turned into the biggest animal on the face of the earth. Yeah, that was August of 2016. So that was over here, right? No? Shit. That's 2017. 80s. Holy cow. Yeah. So, yeah, look at, I mean, and they finally sold off hard. But incredible move. Incredible move. You see action from time to time. We haven't seen anything like that, but there's been some action from time to time in stamps, but nothing like that. That was a pretty big bet, at that time. Let's get to a couple more names before we wrap it up here. Anybody have anything interesting that I always forget a decent name or two that I wanted to give you a heads up on. But a lot of times it's in names that, I've realized that too more than I have in the past. The Steam Room and stuff like that. A lot of the action, the best action that we find in names that are, it really amazes me how many people just brush it off, like ignore it. It amazes me. And it's hard for me to understand because, that's nothing gets me more excited than that type of action. And it's fascinating how a lot of people they just care about the same group of names. And like I said, if you find success trading that way, that's fine. Not finding success, I recommend changing that strategy. There's a universe of stocks out there, a whole universe. And for you to believe that you're going to find an edge in the same names over and over and over again, consistently throughout your career, for me, it's far-fetched. Square has been a beast. That's another beast. They have enough Jan calls to kill a small village in Square that they've accumulated, months back. Square, we saw there was call sweeper activity again this past week. Prior to that, here into this little, you want to call it weakness? I don't know what you want to call it. They were selling puts. Incredible action. Incredible. Just nuts. It really is amazing, some of the winners, right? Some of these moves, it's amazing. But at the same time, like I said, if a lot of the market looked like this, I would be more concerned than I am now. There's a whole market out there that got ignored while this stuff has been raging. Oh, by the way, we saw, for those of you who remember, ILG has seen a pickup of action. That has earnings Monday. Otherwise, I would say maybe they're getting bought out this week. So it could be earnings. But I saw an uptick in activity recently, and little by little, quiet, no news, drifting up here, This is another beast with top shelf action. Again, guys, that action, I can't stress to you enough, and you guys remember, ILG, they bought it here when we were scratching our heads. We had no idea what the hell they do. Timeshares, we're like, what the hell are they sweeping here? What are they doing? And honestly, we saw action the first day, we ignored it. We saw action come in for another day, we ignored it. And then we saw action come in again, and we said, holy shit, what are they doing? And then action again, and again, and again, and then she got loose here, But that aggressive activity. Then she went into this little hibernation here, and action has started to heat up again. And yeah, there was news of Marriott chatter. That was the chatter recently. That was this spike right here. So, but you can see off that spike, a little sideways action, but they've been busy again. What they buy? December's, I think. They've been busy again. I don't even. Did you hear a price on this, Jim? Anybody hear a price? Like what they're looking? Somebody mentioned 35, but I don't know. Did they mention a price off that chatter or anything, or there was no price? Yeah. So we don't even know a price or anything. But yeah, she's been another incredible name, under the radar name that has some action. You know, the hotels, monsters. Marriott, right? The Wyndham, the Hyatt, all the hotels, they have seen incredible action, huge moves. So things are good. All right, two things. Sentiment-wise, we're okay. Again, there's a little bit of heat from time to time, okay? This is Marriott, by the way. Look at Marriott. Marriott, Wyndham. We get a little bit of heat from time to time as far as bullish sentiment is concerned, but the smallest wash that we see wipes it all out, okay? So that tells me that there's no irrational exuberance out there. You know what I mean? This is not 1999 type euphoria out there. As a matter of fact, okay, there are people still trying to short and catch a top. When this market is finally over, every single guy you know, especially on the jabroni end, who's trying to short and find tops in this market is going to get wiped out. Happens all the time. They will get wiped out. You're not going to see a group of guys on Twitter nail the top of a bull market. Doesn't work that way. So until that calms down, you know, you hope for weakness. You know what I mean? I know it sounds ridiculous, but I can give an example. The market we're in right now, okay, and that's what I say, you still want to participate, right? We're overdue for a pull. We're overdue for a correction. We may not get it till the start of next year. It's very possible. We're going into, you know, prime Santa rally stuff. So who knows? But you got to be prepared for it. So you want to still participate, but you don't want to go crazy. And at the same time, more importantly, if and when we do get that pull, that doesn't mean the music stops. More than likely, from what we're seeing on the sentiment end, that's another opportunity. And you want to be able to take advantage of that. So just as much as you don't want to get hurt by getting caught in a drawdown if we get a pullback, it's just as important as to keep some ammo to be able to take advantage of when we finally bottom out and a whole new leg higher starts. Right, a reset. That's the perfect word. A reset. Some are bigger than others. You never know, you know, what it's going to look like. Some drawdowns may be quicker. Some may last a little longer. Some may be deeper. We don't know. All right, but after we and then we start seeing that those missiles and the Bazooka Joe action start to pop up again, because what happens is when we get that correction, the buying is going to dry up. We're going to see it dry up. And we're going to see probably put action. More than likely, we're going to see a lot of put action. But then when that comes to an end and we start to see the flow turn, you know, that's going to be another huge opportunity. So you know, a pullback wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So you got to plan for it. You got to be ready for it. And at the same time, you want to leave enough gunpowder to take advantage of it when it comes to an end. You know, and listen, it doesn't even if we go into a bear market, okay, I have no idea. But even in bear markets, after the selling dries up, you get bear market rallies that sometimes are, not sometimes, a lot of times are more powerful than bull market rallies. You know what I mean? So you want to be able to take advantage of that. That's, you know, that's where you catch some real nice entries and you can allow some winners to run per se. You know, here you want to be more focused of, even though you see no risk. You want to be more focused about risk. You want to be okay with, if you get caught in the drawdown, you're okay with where you're at. You're not happy. You're going to give back some of the profits you made. That's all part of the gig. You just want to be okay with it. And then you want to be able to take advantage of, when they finally bottom out, because there's nothing better. And we've seen it on these little cockamamie pullbacks we've seen, from French elections to whatever damn excuse they find, Comey testifying, right? These little consolidation type things, I call them. And how much of a sweet spot that creates, right? Some are longer than others. Here was one. There was a little put action mixed in. Call buying went quiet. Then all of a sudden, call buying starts to heat up, coincidentally right where sentiment was at its worst, where everybody was bearish, and you get a whole new leg higher, And that's what you want to look at. So when we do get that drawdown, it's going to be bigger than these or longer than them, but you want to be able to take advantage of it. I mean, this is, right now, we're in a bull market. Brexit, all that stuff. It's always, and the news at the time is going to look the complete opposite of what it is now. It's going to seem like there's a ton of risk out there. It's going to be hard to look for long entries. But those end up being the big, big winners. Here it gets trickier as far as letting things run, per se. Why? Because let's say you take a position in something up here, okay, and it's something you want to let run. Like, let's say, like even the Marriott we looked at, all right? How can you realistically, you're going to take a position up here and you want to catch a big move in it? What's more than likely to happen is eventually there's going to be some sort of pull in this, and you're going to get caught. You know what I mean? So that's why it gets tougher as far as finding a sweet spot entry on names like that look like this. You can trade them. There's still a ton of money to be made. But letting winners run gets a little tricky up here when you're looking for entries up here. They're best when they come out of these consolidations and you have an entry here and you let it run. So that's, as oxymoronic as it sounds, I mean, that's the way you got to look at it now. You got to, even though you don't see much risk out there and things look good, you got to always keep an eye on what you have at risk. Be okay that if you walk in tomorrow and there's some sort of drawdown and it's the start of some sort of correction that we're overdue for, you're okay with what you got. And you have the ability to take advantage of when it comes to an end, because it will come to an end, and at the least set up a powerful bear market rally if it's the start of a bear market. More than likely, it's just a correction in a bull market. This is a bull market here. All right. On that note, I'll let you guys enjoy your Saturday. For anybody who's new, WallStreetJesus.com. You got everything we do here. What we talk about. Go to the strategy section, from sweepers to how to use this stuff, what to look for in this stuff, some short blogs you might find interesting. And a couple of things we offer throughout this Saturday sweep series. We have a new free trial thing here, 3 days, no credit card. You get read-only access to the flow, so you can't really participate as far as asking questions and stuff. But you'll get a feel for what the room's about. All right, 3 days, no credit card. 50% off the first month. That's another offer we have. And then we have private Twitter, which is included in any premium membership, spun off if you're just looking for Twitter flow. It's all the real-time alerts, open interest, sentiment stuff, all posted in real time for $59.99 a month. And you get access to just private Twitter. All right. But like I said, WallStreetJesus.com, any questions you have, you'll be able to find the answers there. All right, guys. Thanks as always for coming out. I appreciate you guys always showing up. Enjoy the weekend. Good luck next week. Oh, my winner for the Breeders' Cup before you go. Jim, what do you got there? You got anybody there? I like Collected in the Cup Classic. He should go off a decent price, but a lot of guys walk there. You like him too? Yeah, I like Collected there. So that's my play in the Cup for all you horsemen out there. All right, enjoy the Breeders' Cup. I'll talk to you guys next week.